Hello everyone. Can you all hear me okay? All good? Okay. You all must be loving event storming so much. 4 p.m. last session of the day. Still you're around, so thank you. I'm Urmila. I'm from AWS. I'm a senior solution architect. So before going into event storming or digital transformation, I want to show you some statements or quotes and see if you can resonate with them. Like starting with IT team costs 3 months to add up a new button on a website from marketing team. So these personas, if you are around, no offense, right? So this is just to tell you about like industry trends and relate it back to the topic that we are discussing today. So I'm going to show you some more. Like every company would have a system like this. Like no one knows how it works, but it works and it will be in the critical path. So no one dares to touch it or change it. And or on the other end, some systems will be like too much familiar with it that we want to build every new requirement into it. Like if you have one CRM, you try to like build all new requirements into the CRM and make it work. Or suddenly we'll start saying, let's move to the cloud, right? Or perhaps we need a GenAI strategy. I haven't put the personas against these two statements because many people in the organization do say that nowadays. But have these statements in the back of your mind, and we will speak about it as we go along. And now let's start talking about digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? In simplest terms, is about reimagining the way we do business with digital technology at the core of business strategy. So though it is about digital technology, the main thing is to work backwards from your business strategy. And why is this cursor moving? Anyway. So the problem is not with the technology itself. The point I'm trying to make is how do you work backwards from the business requirements and your business strategy. If it's about technology, why 70% of digital transformation initiatives do not reach their goals. So this is a stat from a Harvard Business Review. So how do we actually map out our digital transformation? So every organization, it's not like a one-off activity, right? So initially it was like from paper-based, we moved into electronic form of systems. And then we moved into a service-based architecture, then microservices, now we have got GenAI. So every organization is continuously doing some kind of a digital transformation. But whatever kind of transformation, you need to, first of all, start with assessing the current state of your products and processes. So rather than working on the technology directly, think about how your business processes and products are currently operating currently, and then see what is that you need to change or add in that area. So there are various tools of how you can do that. So I want to tell about this business model canvas. Anyone has used that in their organizations before? No? It's a very simple way of portrayal. It's not even a tool. It's the way how you represent your business. So as you can see, it has like 9 segmentations, starting with a value proposition, who are your customer segments, and what kind of relationship you have with your customers, and what is our revenue streams, and so on. So once you do that, and let's take an example and do that for a bank. So I work with financial services for many years, so I'm comfortable in putting an example around here. Hope it's a common example and you're able to relate to it. So let's take any bank is a retail bank giving retail products to their customers. So they say that their value proposition is providing premier customer service at the branches, branch kept open at weekends, and zero-fee debit cards. That's their current value proposition. And they handle transactions with the retail customers, students, or retired or elderly community. And the type of interactions that they have or channels that they have with these customers is branch and online banking currently. And their revenue streams are interest from loans, deposits and savings, processing fees, and so on. And likewise, you fill in for the other areas as well. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but you get an idea. And it deliberately like tells you what is that you need to change. Is your value proposition, is it what making who you are in the market, or do you need to change anything in that? So then take this canvas and work towards your target of where your business model has to go to. So let's say all of these green ones are the new things that that the bank wants to introduce in each area. They want to change their value proposition, they want to introduce new product, they want to change or bring in new revenue streams and all that goodness. So this itself will give you a clear view of like 5 or 6 digital transformation projects in here. Let's focus on a few of the things. It says launch a digital product. And let's say they want to use a channel as mobile banking to attract new customers. And they want to do self-service rather than keeping branches open in weekend. And they want to introduce features like mobile push notifications, which is not there currently in the organization at all. And let's say they want to change something with respect to infrastructure for the sake of it. But even when you put this out there, many organizations where they go into a pitfall is, they immediately recognize this as a technology things to be changed. Think about mobile banking, mobile push notification. There is so much of technology changes that you need to bring in. But rather than starting from technology, how about you understand your business before delving into the technology? That's what we are going to see for the rest of the session. So this is a famous quote from Alberto, who is the author of Event Storming, that it is developers understanding or misunderstanding and not the, we'll go into the concept of domain, but take that as business experts for now. And their knowledge doesn't get fully imparted into the production. So what happens is, down the line, late in your SDLC, you will realize that requirements are missed or requirements are designed and developed in a different way, rework, a lot of rework, and not having an optimal solution. So how do we avoid all this? First thing is to do is to identify your business domains. So business domain in very simplified terms, how would I would see that is, it's a business area where you operate and you perform various activities within that, and those activities are of interest either to people within your domain or to people outside your domain. So if you take the retail banking example, where we can have a customer channel, core banking, marketing, customer communication as different segments. But many organizations won't have this segmentation at all. It's basically because of how the operating model is structured. So if you have a 3-tier architecture, like a front-end, middleware, and a database, you'll have a front-end team, middleware team, and a database team. And that front-end team is not specifically to a particular product. They are going to handle mortgages, or if we want to again introduce a savings product, it's the same team who is going to operate. So there is no clear demarcation, both on the technology side and also on the business side, of the subject matter or industry domain differentiation in the way you operate. So that's why we introduce, for identifying these domains, the domain-driven design. I know if we have been in this leaders track earlier in the day, there have been like overlapping concepts explained on this. But this session, I would say not much on domain-driven design, but on one of the mechanism in the journey towards domain-driven design. So it's a very effective mechanism. It's about collaborating between business and technology. And it's a way of identifying the root cause of failed software projects, of where you went wrong, how you can do things differently. That's about it. But having said that, though it is very beneficial, it's a very tough concept. It has been there for years, and very few people have mastered it. So it's a long journey to get there. So if you know, there is a GitHub community called DDD Crew. So take a look at it after the session. It has got a lot of good materials on DDD and also event storming. So if you want to have the goodness of DDD, but you are still at a very basic stage, then this is a very quick way of getting onboarded into like defining your domains. Basically, let's start with that. Whether you are going to adapt a fully blown domain-driven design in your organization is the next thing. This is just about identifying or understanding your business better. So it has got an 8-step process, as you can see here. We'll not like go into each of it, but some parts of it, starting with the align. So it says align business model and user needs, which actually for this to be done, one of the mechanism is the business model canvas that I showed you previously. So let's say we have done that, and the next stage is discover, decompose, and connect. That is, you go on a discovery exercise to find out what are the various business boundaries that you have got, and what are the things or activities that is happening within that business boundary. So for that, similar to the business model canvas, you need a mechanism to identify this discover, decompose, and connect phases. That's where event storming comes into play. So it's a mechanism to identify your business boundaries and also see what are the things happening within that boundary. See, this session is not intended to make you all event storming experts. So my take on this session would be, think about whether this is applicable in your own organization. This is something that you feel is valuable to be done in your organization for any of your business. It can be a simple business use case, a greenfield one or a brownfield one, or for the entire organization you want to map out how your business model works. So if you, at the end of the session, if you feel that you can give it a try of any of your business use case, that would be a win for me. So what is event storming? It is like a workshop exercise, a collaborative session between business and technology stakeholders. You collaborate in that workshop to identify business events, processes, actions, and domains. So we'll see what each of that means. But for now, understand it can be a single day or a multi-day workshop exercise based on the complexity of the use case in hand and the depth to which you want to go within that. And primarily, the most important of all, at the end of it, it is going to enable your technology team to reflect your business needs correctly. So that's the win-win. So it's not a solution design workshop. So it's a discovery workshop. That's something to be kept in mind. So what we do in that workshop is you will be given a good amount of colored sticky notes, and you need to use that sticky notes to model your business process. And you will have like different colored sticky notes, each one having a different meaning. And you can do this session in 3 levels, starting from a big picture, process, and then design. So big picture is a very high level overview of your business process. And as you get to the lower levels, you'll be adding more details into your business modeling. So what is the first thing to be done for conducting an event storming session is invite the right people. So this is both business and technology. So in this session, I'm going to take the example as opening a savings account product on your mobile banking app. So let's say that's the example that we are going to take. So who are all needed for this exercise? Obviously technology. But if you think from the business perspective, it's like, if you remember the domain examples that I gave, like you have channels, business people who are needed. And this is banking, right? So that you will be having a core banking platform and experts within that. They will be needed. And how do you want to interact with the customer before account opening and also after account opening? You might want to send notification that your account is opened successfully, send out communication, send out a welcome email. So you might need people from communication, marketing. So you might think, why marketing? But you will see why you need to have every business stakeholder in this workshop exercise to make the journey complete. So it will be something like this, colored sticky notes, and you'll be given some instructions on do's and don'ts of what you need to do during the day. And also you will be given a very large working space. It is called as, we call it as unlimited modeling space. Usually it's a big whiteboard wall or a big sheet of paper in which you can move around these sticky notes flexibly to get at your final business modeling. So in the previous slide, there are a lot of colors in here. But where do you start with is this orange sticky note, which is called as an domain event. For now, consider it is just an event. So what's an event? It's something that has happened in the past. It's an immutable fact that has happened and it is important to your business. And some other users are dependent on that event to happen, based on which they are going to take some actions. So these are some examples of password authenticated, account opened, SMS sent as examples. So if you look at the format, it is like now followed by a verb in the past tense as the format. So we insist people to, when they are sticking the sticky notes, insist people to write the events in this format. And then what we do is, we find all of the events and order them in a timeline. So like a story. So usually a story starts as once upon a time and ends as lived happily ever after. So if you take our savings account example, we are opening it in the mobile app. So the first event might be the user opening the mobile app. And final event might be the user viewing the account in their mobile app. So in between, what are the different events that is going to happen is what is the intent of the session or the outcome of the workshop session. So when you start doing it, it's going to be chaotic, very chaotic, because each one is going to bring their own ideas, and it's not going to be in an orderly way. So the sticky notes are going to go around various places, which is fine, because that's what we need to gather all of the events. And in our savings account example, just in the interest of time, I'm going to just show you, if we do it in a proper way, after a lot of analysis, what do we get to? So this is not like a full-blown saving account opening journey. This is a very oversimplified example, just to make a point of how this is done. So let's say the customer logs into the app, and they select the savings product. And let's say we call a service to check the product eligibility, whether the customer is eligible to open that product, and then the customer places the request to open the product. And then the actual account opening happens. And after the account is opened, there might be post-account opening events, like monthly interest schedule getting updated. You send a survey to the customer about the account opening journey. You send a mobile push notification, or you send a welcome email. So many of this, it might be your business process that you need all this, or in some cases you don't need this. But I'm just showing how the various events from various parts of business can come and fall into this exercise. So now going back to our first slide. So when you do this exercise, these questions will come, irrespective of what type of use case that you are doing. Not just this, but more questions than this. But during this session, since this is discovery, these questions are important and valid questions. So you need to log them. But we should not make the session about these problems. Yeah. So what is the good way of logging them, but not like getting stuck within them, is by using hotspots. This pink sticky note, which is called as hotspots. So these can be assumptions or things that you don't know as of today, or action items that you want to take it for later. Examples, I've given some examples. So product eligibility check. So far you have been doing savings account opening, let's say through the branch. So if you're doing an eligibility check, you have a service today, but it's not a real-time service. So how can you bring that into a mobile app? So do we need a new service here? Or you say, like, for the survey, we are using a vendor product which is reaching end of life. So what do we do about it? Or we don't have this capability, mobile push notification. So what is the cost of or effort taken in doing that? Or our favorite one that no one understands how this works. Right? So it's not today that we are going to find an answer of how it is going to work, but it's important to log it. So that's the purpose of hotspots. And the next point I want to highlight is there will be duplications, because there are multiple people part of the workshop. There are going to be duplications, but they might use different words, like account opening completed. Someone might write like that. Someone might write account opened. But as a facilitator, so if you are the facilitator, identify those duplicates and stack them in an order so that we know that we all mean the same thing, but in different ways. Actually, duplications are good. That means many people are finding that event important. So those type of events are called as pivotal events. So pivotal events, why they are important is they help us to identify system boundaries, because that's the overall intention of the session, right? So let's see an example how pivotal events help us identify the system boundaries. So in this example, I've highlighted like two duplicates. One is the request being placed, and other is the account opening itself. So if you see, watch closely, the events up until the request is placed is happening on a channel, that is the mobile app. And the next one, the actual account opening process happening is in the core banking. So you could see like two different system boundaries appearing out of this. And another way of identifying pivotal events is complete context switching. So if you see this, survey on account opening is placed after monthly interest schedule getting updated, which are like two different contexts. But since we are having people from different business areas, we have put that in the timeline. But it's now time to identify, like this is like completely different, and put that into a separate context. Similar way, mobile push notification. So it is again doing a context switching. So by doing this, we will start to identify the concept of bounded context. So if you have been in Sheen's session earlier, he would have highlighted about like domain, subdomain, and bounded context. So I'm not like an expert in that area at all. So I'm not like trying to explain those terms correctly. But for now, just assume that you are understanding your business better and you are clearly seeing different business areas collaborating in order to make a product live. And we are going to identify those boundaries and see how these events and information out of those events is going to pass between these boundaries. So that's the next step. First step is identifying it. So again, going back to the savings account example, now we have got just the events. So how do you put these boundaries or the context around it? So as you can see, this is in the channel. The first two things are happening in the channel, and next one is a product eligibility check. So whether it's a savings account or a current account, maybe you do it within a particular boundary, and whichever service or channel will come there and do the check and go back to their channel. And then you place the account opening request, and finally it is going to core banking to get the actual account opened. So though the monthly interest schedule is a post account opening event, it's still within the boundary of core banking. So I put it within that. And then we have some communication processes post account opening, and you have some marketing process post account opening. So in this way, you can see who are all the different business stakeholders who need to contribute into the requirement analysis and also as part of the design. So next, so we have been seeing only about hotspots and events, but there are other colored sticky notes. So just quick note on how do you bring those things to make your event storming more meaningful, and also going to the next level of event storming. To do that, we need to think about where do these events come from? When does that event actually happen? So I'm going to show you some examples of maybe it is an action started by an user. So use an yellow color to identify the user and a blue sticky note for representing the action. So example can be customer submits account opening form, which results in an event, which is account opening form submitted. So if you see that blue sticky note, it will be in the format of verb followed by a noun, and that verb will be in present tense. So that's the way you identify that this is an action causing the event. Another example could be an event created by a system. So I have put it as external system, like a third-party system sending a file. The file arrived might be an event that you want for your business process, but you are not much bothered about the third-party system, or even an internal system which is not part of your business process modeling. So those things can be highlighted as a system. And maybe it's just a passing of time, like a time schedule. Example is end of month reconciliation. could be an event, it's a time-based event. And finally, it is a consequence of another event. So this is what we represent using a policy. Policy are like if-else conditions in your design and even in your, when it gets to build. Because not all business process will be like linear. There would be parallel flows, multiple flows happening. So how do you represent that is using policy. The example is in the account opening, if the account opening has failed, what happens? So when failure, you take a different action. So that is represented as another event. So in this example, account opening failed. When failure, SMS sent to inform failure. So that's another event. So that introduces other colored sticky notes, but how do you order it in your timeline? Is by going into the next level of event storming, which is called the process modeling. So it becomes like very confusing, like the flow and all those things. But not to worry. First of all, you have to start with the higher level session. But once you finish that, then it is useful to get to the process modeling. So we'll look at it with an example, starting from this customer action. So once you get to an event, it is followed by either a policy or a query model. So we haven't talked about query model yet. So let's see an example. So let's say customer logs in to a system. So system being the mobile app here, and customer logged into mobile banking app is the event. So after this, you get the query model or information. That is something that the customer views or the information that they have got. So in this example, the mobile banking homepage is what the customer views to take the next action, which is clicking into savings account, again in the system, mobile app, which causes the action, savings account page displayed. So in this way, when you get to the next level, so in the big picture session, you might have got like 50 events. But when you go to the process modeling, you start thinking about the additional flows and information that is available to you. The 50 events might become 100 events now as you add in more details, which is good, which is going to like help you with the design when you get to the next stage. So this is about after an event. If you are doing a query model, this is an example. But if you are doing a policy, this is an example of doing two different flows out of an event. Say that account opening process is completed. When it is completed, it might be a failure or it might be successful. So if the account opening is successful, the next action is send an welcome email. So again, you put a system. So I just put it as an email system for now. It might be an existing system or it might be a system that you need to design. But at this stage, just give a name to it so that you know that you need a system here and you need to work out how to place that action into that system. And if the account opening has failed, you take a completely different flow. It might be another system. So here, email system and communication system can be a single system as well, like all your communications in a system. So that is a design decision. So you are going to make valuable design decisions out of the diagrams or the business flows that you create out of this exercise. So having discussed till the process modeling, if you have read my abstract on the agenda, I would have listed that event storming is an exercise where you use your business requirement to depict the foundation of your technical architecture. But so far, we haven't identified any technical design or architecture out of it. So I want to just quickly show how it can be done. This is not part of the actual event storming exercise itself. But you need to know, right? I just showed some colored sticky notes, like what is that I'm going to get out of this, where it is leading to. So this is what it is going to lead you to, which I want to show. So you have our events and you have your boundaries. So now next step is to think about how to integrate these events, how information is going to pass between these events. So here, that depends on your business SLAs, your non-functional requirements. So previously, when you are opening the account in a branch, you might have opened the account in 24 hours, which would have been fine. But now you're doing it on mobile banking. So what is the SLA of account opening? Are you going to do it real time or like 5 minutes, 30 minutes? And so that is going to have an impact on your design. So let's say 30 minutes. From the point that the customer has placed a request, 30 minutes they are going to get an account number. Let's say that's the requirement. At least until the account opening request is placed, it has to be a synchronous communication because you are working with a mobile app. Everything has to be real time and synchronous. So that will make you think that these events communicate through a synchronous communication. And then you place the request, but the account opening, you have 30 minutes to get it completed. So that can be an asynchronous communication. And again, after the account is opened, so far we have been putting everything in a timeline, but now it's a point to think about, events can happen parallel. So here, if you see monthly interest schedule getting updated, mobile push notification or welcome email set, everything is dependent on one event, which is the account opening process to be completed. So if that is the case, then all of this can be an asynchronous consumer of that event, which can take its own action independently. So you can see the design patterns arriving out of the event flow that you created. And you might even think about like where you need real-time services, where you need asynchronous services. And here, if you see, there is asynchronous events consumption. So maybe you can use an event broker. You place the account opening event into a broker and it goes to multiple targets. Whether you need a push-based broker or a pull-based broker. Depends on your, again, requirements. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying like if you do event storming, you're going to get to a perfect microservices event-driven architecture, no. But if you have those in mind, it is good to start from event storming. Because you can do event storming and you can end up building a perfect monolith again and call it as a digital transformation because you have it on a mobile app. But is it the right thing to do? You are finding opportunities to modernize. So how do you do it in the right way is to start with event storming. And quick tips on facilitation before we close off. Who can be a facilitator, right? It can be a business person. If a business is initiating this exercise, it can be a product owner or a business analyst who initiates. But as participants, as I mentioned before, every stakeholder has to be there. Or if it's initiated by technology, engineering manager or architect can be the facilitator. But the important thing is to time box the events, give opportunity for every stakeholder to present their opinion, and not to fall into hotspots, and explore every area with an equivalent depth. And most importantly, don't try to design or build a solution in this session. This is discovery. So stick to that, identify problems, and see how you can resolve it. So this is an interesting drawing from Paul Rayner's one of his talks. He's a domain-driven DDD and event storming experts. He's got like a lot of good talks on YouTube, another one to check out. So we have been seeing that the idea is to start from A and go to B. So how the session will start is everyone is going to diverge with their own views and talk about their own problems and challenges, which you need to let it happen as a facilitator. And then at the closing, everyone will be on the same page and say that these are the areas that we need to explore further or dive deep further. And we will take design as a next step of that. But if you see the square in the middle, that's where you can help explore each of the domains and see how those domains are going to connect and what are the various design patterns that you can take out of it. So that's the overall intent of event storming sessions. So I've already highlighted the outcomes that this is a collaborative learning. And even very complex domains, if you don't know like how to start, where to start, and how to like break it down into different processes, then give it a try. So rather than listening to a session, it's more attractive and beneficial when you actually try it for a real life business use case. And don't make up a use case, it has to be a real life problem so that you will see the benefits of how you can get to a solution from that. And as I mentioned, you won't have like much reworks down the line when you start your design and build because you are addressing all of the gaps with the business stakeholders right at the beginning of your exercise. And finally, it's a good mechanism or a catalyst for your digital transformation journey. So I want to end the session with this quote. So we all have good intentions, right? We want to make our organizations better, but good intentions can't never work, or just good intentions can't make things work. You need good mechanism to make anything happen, and event storming is a good mechanism. So try it out, please. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Urmila. Impeccable timing as well, I have to say. So we've got time for a couple of questions. Yes, Mike. No, there was a hand that went up there.
Thanks. Firstly, an anecdotal observation. We tried to use event storming in our organisation, and the one thing we got wrong was it was all technical people. And what we ended up doing was finding we were just modelling the same thing that we already had, rather than what we were trying to transform. So yeah, it's very crucial, I think, to have the right people from the business as part of that process. The question was more around, obviously it's very aligned to domain-driven design event storming. How do you find, obviously you find in domain events, how do you actually end up finding those integration events between those bounded contexts? Right, because obviously you don't want all domain events being exposed to between those. How do you determine what those, I guess, not necessarily pivotal events, but the integration events between those domains? Is there a way within event storming to determine that?
So if I understand your question correctly, you're asking me about how do we identify those integration points from the events, right? So first of all, let's say that this is as part of digital transformation, right? So you might be mapping out your current business process first, and then you will identify what are the things to change. So that's one way. Other is you are doing it for a totally greenfield environment. For the first instance, you might know already what are the existing integrations. Yeah. So you need to identify through the hotspots of what is not working currently with that type of integration. So initially I gave one example that the identity scanning system, no one knows, and we don't know whether it supports API. So if you want to make it as a real-time integration, first of all, we need to know whether it supports API. So that is so in that way, that's easier to identify the type of integrations. But if it is greenfield, then you are thrown with options. That there are a lot of options. So the type of integration, as I mentioned, it's relating back into your business SLAs and your business requirements, not the functional ones, and mainly on the non-functional ones. So I said you open the account in 30 minutes, right? So that is end-to-end. But from the point of placing the account opening request to the point of that core banking service getting executed, that latency might be 5 minutes is what is defined, business has defined. So what are the design patterns that is suitable to make it happen in 5 minutes? That will narrow down your options of your design pattern, and from that point you can go on. That's a very long answer, but hope I answered it in a very roundabout way.
Okay, yep.
Hi. What you showed us was a sort of MASes and a 2B world. What I found is often a 2B is too big a step.
Yeah.
And therefore you have to have sort of intermediate steps. What's
your
view about how far in the future you envisage it, or whether you try and get it an intermediate step?
Yeah, in that case, you will be having like a tactical roadmap or a tactical business process model, and also your target business process model. So again, going back to my example, that core banking, let's say it's a third-party product, you're stuck with it, and you have like 10 years of licensing, so whatever it provides, So you're not going to change it. So you have to work around it. So that means everything, though you say that I put events into that, account getting opened in 5 minutes may not be possible with that. So you need to work around it and make compromises along the way. So end-to-end event-driven architecture is not the goal of event storming. As I mentioned, you can build another monolith, but anyway, it is a transformation from where you were previously. You didn't have mobile banking before, now you are having it. So that's a compromise and a trade-off that you need to take around the cost of changing your core banking against the cost of bringing this new product to life. So those are the trade-offs that you need to make, and you might be having multiple business models to make it work.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, is event storming a worthwhile approach if the need for change is not coming from the business but from technology? So say if you've got a legacy app that's past support and you need to move it into a supported stack, but the business kind of just wants the same thing again, is it still worth going through the event storming process?
Yes, definitely I would say, because it depends on like where you're going to go from there. So this legacy application, it might be end of licensing, or you data center exit, that you like the vision is to move to cloud, and you want to get the best possible solution in the cloud. And business is, let's say the business is happy as long as you are getting it into the cloud and it is going to deliver the same kind of functionality. So in terms of business, it's not changing much, but it's just changing the technology. But again, the type of design options that you do for this cloud migration can be different options, right? So how do you find those options? Then it's valuable to do the event storming, to say that, so this is, let's say, the one that no one knows how it works, the system, the identity scanning system. So the process in that is you upload a document and it is going to scan and it is going to verify some information and it's going to say that this ID is valid or not. So this is the flow. So that flow, mapping of the flow, you can do an event storming for that. And if you're moving into cloud, where this vendor application, maybe it is in a virtual machine currently, but you can put it on a serverless system and say that for scanning of the document, you can use a cloud native service to do that. Or you can end up putting it into another, let's say if you put it on AWS, you're putting it on EC2 and making it work. So those are two different ways of doing it. But you get an opportunity to show to your leadership, like I have these options and each option has got its own benefits. So can we see which one is more suitable for us? So to make high level, mainly to reach leadership in a very plain language, not getting into the chassis technical teams, this is going to be very helpful.
Yeah, Urmila, thank you very, very much.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.